What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Kingdom Sports. I know it's been a little bit of a delay in me making a new episode. I wanted to explain part of why that is, and then we'll talk about some football. So I felt led this summer to leave my past job that I was at. This is something that God had put on my heart to change jobs. Also, doing this podcast was something that God had put on my heart, as I explained in the first episode I ever uploaded. If you guys have listened to that, you kind of heard some of the backstory of how I felt that this was the direction that God was moving me into. So fast forward to now, and this past week, I've started a new job. It's a very humble job, just working at a grocery store, but it's been very refreshing in a way. I think one of the biggest things is I'm just really getting to evangelize to a lot of my coworkers. I like working with customers. I feel like it's a very fun experience interacting with people. For the most part, you have some people that are a little out there, a little wild, or a little rude, but largely it's been incredible just getting to talk with customers, but especially just getting to minister to my coworkers. But one of the big challenges has definitely been learning balance, for sure. You know, going back to, it's really easy to do a podcast and all these other kind of things like that are hobby related, like going to the gym and making music and all this other kind of stuff. It's very easy to do that when you don't have 30 to 40 hours of your week committed to working. And then when you get home from work, it's hard to motivate yourself to really go after those things. So I'm definitely trying to learn balance. And in case you don't know, my wife and I are expecting our daughter to be born in the next 5 weeks really, but hopefully in the next month is what we're expecting for our daughter to be born. So I just wanted to kind of preface this with saying, like, I want to do my best because I want to honor the Lord with this and this be something that's edifying and enjoyable for all of you. But just have grace for me, just being a human, having limited strength and abilities and time. I know that once my daughter is born, it's going to be even harder to prioritize doing something like this. So your guys' prayers are greatly appreciated as I'm just trying to do what God has called me to do. So keep praying for me. And I'm excited to see where we can take the podcast in the future. I definitely want to figure out how I can do some collaborative episodes, like having some friends either be on a Zoom call and talk about sports with me, or having somebody in the studio. I haven't figured out how that would work yet, if I can do that. But obviously, having a conversation about sports is a little more entertaining than just hearing one guy talk about sports. But for now, you're stuck with me. That's what we got. So I just wanted to do kind of like a state of the NFL address type of thing for today's episode. Just kind of talk about the state of the league, some of the storylines, the big disappointments, the big surprises, and then just kind of do some basic predictions on what I think the playoffs might look like. Do some predictions on some of the awards that'll happen at the end of the year, and just talk about football. Just let it be something casual. I didn't watch all the highlight videos. That's normally how I do my episodes, is I watch highlights from every single game if I hadn't watched the game live when it happened. And then I take notes on it, and then I talk with you guys about it. I just did not commit the time to that this week, just to try and keep my sanity and not die. So we're just going to do a very simple conversation about football, if you will. So yeah, let's open up in a word of prayer, and then we'll jump into it. God, I just thank you for sports. I know that sports are not something that are a necessity in our life, but I thank you that you have brought so much joy into sports. Lord, I pray that this would be used as a tool to reach those who don't know you, or those who are trying to grow with you, Lord, that they would just be encouraged as they hear this episode, Lord. I thank you for giving me the ability, the provision to even be able to do something like this, Lord, and I just ask that we give you glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, I wanted to go with a conference breakdown to kind of start, talking about each division in their respective conferences. So let's just go ahead. We'll kick it off with the AFC East. Buffalo is definitely my pick to win this division, and I had actually put New England at second, Miami at third, and the Jets at fourth. Right now, the Bills are 3-0. They've looked really good. They had an impressive comeback win against the Ravens in Week 1. They whooped on the Jets, and then I believe they played Monday night against Miami, and it was an okay game. Like, Buffalo could have played better for sure. Miami looked a little more themselves, but Buffalo secured another win. Yeah, they're definitely the favorite to win the AFC East for sure. I think this Patriots team is very interesting as well. They just committed 5 turnovers in one game, which was pretty wild against the Steelers. Definitely can't have that happen and win games. But I do think that this team would have enough talent to edge out Miami, just because Miami has looked really flat, and that defense, especially for Miami, has just been non-existent. So As of right now, my predictions are almost spot on because you can flip New York Jets or Miami because they're both 0-3. But this Jets team, after week one, obviously, like, the week one takes can age incredibly or poorly. My week one Jets take, I don't think it's fair to say that it aged poorly because Justin Fields really hasn't gotten to play. We didn't see that complete offense that we saw from the Jets in week one. However, man, did they put up a fight against one of my sleeper picks to be the number one seed in the NFC, which was the Bucs. They had a blocked field goal to get a touchdown to go up, and then the Bucs walked it right down the field, hit a game-winning field goal. So, which kind of sounds familiar to another game that happened this weekend, but I think it ended differently. Might have to talk about that one in a little bit. So the AFC East, though, I think Buffalo still takes this. I think Buffalo's a lock for the playoffs. I definitely expect them to be one of the top 2 seeds for sure. Josh Allen is just incredible. James Cook is such a good running back. Their wide receivers are really coming into their own. They have a dual-headed threat at tight end with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. And their defense has played pretty darn well. Obviously, they gave up a big game to the Ravens, but outside of that, they looked really good. And they didn't even have Ed Oliver this last week, and Ed Oliver is a great defensive lineman. So still expecting big things from Buffalo. I think New England can get better. I'm still I feel like we haven't seen like the Mike Vrabel kind of team that you expect out of New England. You know, like I feel like in Tennessee you knew that it was going to be gritty, all that kind of stuff, and I feel like we haven't seen that out of New England yet. But I think that we will see that. And with the Jets, I'm not counting them out yet. Let Justin Fields come back into this offense and see how things go. They have the defensive weapons. They have an offense that really could be good. It's a lot on Justin. I'm still a believer, though. Not going to lie. Miami. I love Tua. I like Jalen Waddle, both Alabama guys. Part of me is kind of hoping that Mike McDaniel becomes the Eagles offensive coordinator. I think that would be really cool if he were to be fired midseason from Miami. That would be really cool if we ended up, signing him as our offensive coordinator. I'm not too happy with the Eagles offense so far outside of the second half against the Rams we had, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. Moving on to the AFC North. This division is so weird because Cincinnati is 2-1 and they're terrible. Joe Burrow is going to be injured for a long period of time. They have good, 2 good wide receivers. Their tight ends are solid. Their offensive line is probably one of the worst in the NFL. I think maybe them or the Texans seem to be the worst in my eyes from what I've seen at least. And Jake Browning, I don't blame the guy. Again, he's a backup quarterback. You can't expect him to put up magical numbers. But again, the offensive line hasn't changed. We shouldn't expect a different result when it comes to blocking for the Bengals. Whoever's under center, it doesn't matter. It's weird that they're atop the division, though, with how strong Baltimore is. But we'll talk about Baltimore in a second. Cincinnati, I think that they're going to start going on a real skid here. I think that they will be out of the playoff picture before Burrow comes back. I think it'll be another season, unfortunately, where it's too little too late. And people are really saying, man, like Burrow's been getting hit more than Andrew Luck was. It just makes you question what may come of his career. You hope that it's not a what if because you see the talent on the field. But if the guy's in the hospital half his career, I mean, you can't really plan on a Super Bowl ring. I mean, it's just, it sucks, man. It really does suck for Cincinnati. Yeah. Hopefully they can shore up their offensive line. Honestly, I would say it this way. Hopefully they can shore up their offensive line for next year. Give them an actual fighting chance. The Steelers, this has been a very weird team. They've been very Mike Tomlin-esque in winning the games right when they needed to, except for that bad loss against Seattle last week. But this game against the Patriots was terrible. How did they not put up more points? You have 5 turnovers, and I think they ended the game with 17 points. I think they had 2, maybe they had 3 touchdowns at the most, but I think that they ended the game 17 points with 5 turnovers. It's wild that this offense isn't producing more because Jaylen Warren looks really good. You have DK Metcalf, you have Aaron Rodgers, who obviously he's not in his prime, but it's just weird that they're not really performing better. I don't really have an answer for why that is. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my eyes. Let me go to the player stats real quick. or I'm sorry, the team stats. Let's look at the team stats for the Steelers. Do a little investigation of their offense to kind of see what may be some of the issues. Because again, it doesn't really make sense to me that this unit wouldn't be producing with the talent that they have, but especially their defense. Like, the highest paid defense in the league. You got TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward. You have all these guys, Patrick Queen, Jalen Ramsey. Obviously, he's a little older, but, it's like there are so many weapons, and this team is just not really, like, beating teams. They've won 2 games, but they haven't really beat any teams. Like, they beat the Jets, I guess. But again, even with that game, like, you weren't expecting it to be close, like, from going into the season. Obviously, we know a little bit more about the Jets now and that they might be able to contend a little bit. But Pittsburgh is 30th in offensive production, 741 yards. It is pretty darn wild. Their passing yards per game are only 184. Their rushing yards a game are 60. They're 63. I mean, their offense just is not producing. It really is wild. Let's take a look at their defense. Their defensive stats. They're also 30th. That is wild, man. I'm sorry, my computer didn't update. They're 28th. They've given up 1,100 yards, 740 through the air, 418 on the ground, and they've given up 77 points. It is just, I don't understand Pittsburgh. I don't understand why they're not better. But an even weirder story, Baltimore, right? Like, Baltimore, one of the strongest rosters in the entire NFL. I had them pegged to be the Super Bowl representative for the AFC this year, and I am totally taking back that pick. They cannot win big games. I know that we've seen that in the past, but we kind of keep doing this with the Ravens where it's like, you make an excuse for it. Okay, they'll be good next year. They'll be good next year. They'll be good next year. And then they just never are for some reason. They just can't seem to overcome those struggles. Obviously, Derrick Henry, a legendary running back, has 2 back-breaking fumbles in 2 weeks. He's fumbled 4 times this season in 3 games. He fumbled 4 times all of the entirety of last season. So Baltimore struggling, it really is interesting. I think that this will be one of those moments where they do go on a bit of a hot streak offensively. But I think that champions are proven when they win those big games, when they win those close games where it matters. And you're just not seeing that out of Baltimore at all. And again, they've played some real good competition so far. They had the Bills dead to rights. They should have beat the Lions. It's just, those are games that Baltimore has to win, and they just didn't. So I'm not really a believer in Baltimore right now. I don't see them doing much. I think it's going to be another regular season game and maybe get to the divisional round and then another loss in a game that they should win. And then you have Cleveland. Like, the common theme that I've kept saying whenever I'm talking about Cleveland is I love Myles Garrett. But as far as Cleveland goes, their defense has been awesome. They are the number 1 defense in terms of yards per game, but allowing only 204. So that's definitely something to celebrate. I won't lie. I did not give them much credit for how well their defense was performing. They are 1-2, but huge win against the Packers, holding back a very talented offense that does have some injuries, but still, don't want to take their flowers from them. But I really didn't expect that they were the number 1 defense in terms of yards allowed. Let's see their offense. They're in the mid to late 20s in terms of offense. They're putting up 290 yards, but only 46 points. They just really haven't been able to score the ball well. But Cleveland is still a team I don't really believe in all that much, personally. That's just me. But anyways, moving on to the AFC South. What an interesting division this has been this year. I think a lot of people were even putting Indiana possibly below Tennessee in some. I think Tennessee largely would be seen as the bottom team in the AFC South. But Indiana is 3-0. They're the second best offense in the league. And defensively, they are in the top 10 as well. It really is just kind of funny to see what this team has been. Obviously, there's all the jokes about Indiana Jones with Daniel Jones just being incredible. Just a really fun season for Indiana. Tyler Warren looks like a beast. Jonathan Taylor looks like his old self again, which is awesome to see after he had that whole holdout incident. I think he had an injury which kind of kept him back for a little bit. Let's look at Daniel Jones's passing stats, though, so far this year. So far, he has thrown for 816 yards. And in terms of touchdowns, he has thrown only 3 touchdowns, hasn't thrown a pick yet. But he's just looked incredible. I mean, he's made the throws that you have to make. He's protected the ball well, obviously, and just a really fun season for Indy. I'm excited for this team that they're having such a good season. I think it's just cool whenever a team has no expectations of doing anything, and then they're just such a tough team to beat. And I think that's what the Indianapolis Colts are going to be this year. Is they're not. I don't expect this team to really be a playoff team and do anything super substantial. However, being a tough team to beat, that's always really fun when your team is one of those teams. So it's kind of how the Panthers were a little later on in the season last year. Like they almost beat Philly. That was a scary game. Oh man, that was a hard one to watch for sure. I really thought we were going to drop that game to them, but props to Indiana. Hope they can keep it up. Imagine the Cinderella story. Daniel Jones goes to the Super Bowl, wins it. That would be just crazy. Jacksonville's still been a pretty interesting team. I don't feel like Jacksonville's played a whole lot of hard competition when we look at their games. I know they started with I think they played the Panthers week 1, and then they played the Titans, I think. So I'm not super impressed with the wins that they've had, and then they have one loss. Let's see, who did they lose to? Oh, they lost to the Bengals. That's right. Okay, so no, they played Carolina, beat them, just beat Houston this past week, and then suffered that final second loss to the Bengals. So Jacksonville, I think it's still a team I don't have a whole lot of faith in. I don't have a bunch of faith that they're going to be a really strong team. I actually kind of don't even know if they're going to be that tough of a team to beat. I do think that Travis Hunter has looked pretty good so far this year. I think, even in that Bengals game, that pass interference that they called on him, I thought was a joke. I thought that was a very, very clean, excuse me. Yeah, a very clean coverage, and then they called it. I'm sorry, my computer's just being a little slow. I'm just trying to make sure I've got all my windows open so I can keep going along with everything. Anyways, I did not think that was a pass interference. I think you don't call that, let it go. I think Jacksonville probably wins that game, actually, and could be 3-0. We'll have to see. I think that there's still a lot for this team to really prove. I think they need to have a win against a really strong competitor to kind of get a lot more attention. I think so far they've had a pretty easy schedule in terms of who they played thus far. So, Indiana, go win that division, buddy. Go do it. For Houston, I think another problem where their offensive line has plagued them, and I was actually talking about this past week, it is really hard for a quarterback to perform when they don't trust their offensive line. That's when you start to get the happy feet. You're expecting to get sacked, and I think that's what a lot of what CJ Stroud is going through is he's expecting a sack to hit him, and so he's not really taking his time. He's rushing his throws. Because of that, he's overthrowing. He looks inaccurate, but I am really rooting for CJ to pull this thing around. He's a brother in Christ. I think he's an awesome man. I have nothing but respect for him, and I really want to see him succeed in this league to keep giving glory to the name of Jesus. So, yeah, hopefully they can figure it out. They've just definitely had a lot of woes, that's for sure, which is disappointing. Like it really does look like they could be what we've been used to seeing them, and they're just not at the moment. So, yeah, hopefully they can get everything figured out, but it's starting to slip. Got to turn it around quick. Tennessee Titans. I think that the Titans are in such a bad situation because of lack of roster talent for sure. And then I think the big thing is head coaching. Brian Callahan is 3-17, which is the worst coaching record through 20 games. I think he'll probably be the first one out of a job this year. The Tennessee Titans have got to start showing some kind of signs of life to help keep Brian Callahan's job. But yeah, just not too thrilled for sure for the Titans thus far. So now moving on to the AFC West, which has been also a very, very weird division. I think one of the weird things about the AFC West is Denver was talked about being the most completed roster, the best defense. I mean, I was even buying into a lot of that. And they just have not performed the way that you would expect. I think we expected this defense to force a lot of turnovers because of the rush and because of how good their defensive backs are. I think a lot of people are expecting that. We really haven't seen a whole lot of that. I think you're expecting a lot more solid performances from Bo Nix with it being his second year and, really coming along near the end there. And it just hasn't really played out that way. They have a +4 point differential, so they should be winning games, but yet they sit 1-2, and they had that very interesting, we call it interesting, leverage penalty against the Colts on a field goal where they then lost that game because of that penalty call. And then a close game to the Chargers this past weekend in a game where they could have also won that game and been 3-0. So yeah, definitely a hard season so far for Denver. Vegas, I think, is another team where they're kind of a tough out. Geno has looked really good so far this season. Well, sorry. He looked really good week 1. Looked really bad against the Chargers. Genti is still kind of finding his footing. They don't have a whole lot of wide receiver talent. They do have Brock Bowers, who's a great tight end, but I don't see Vegas being much of a competitive team. And then Kansas City, they are in shambles from what we're used to seeing them. However, there's always that old adage of you have Andy Reid, you have Patrick Mahomes. You're going to expect this team to kind of figure things out and get the ball moving. They had a very unimpressive win against the Giants, but I think it's this team just being way too conservative. I think that the Chiefs are too conservative, kind of like what my gripe with the Eagles have been, is why are we doing so many screen passes and so many obvious running plays? Like, why don't we just take shots to the receivers downfield? Like, let's open up the offense and trust the guy who's been throwing the ball for you for the last 7 or 8 years and got you 3 Super Bowls. It's like, let him make some plays. Stop throwing swing passes. It's just frustrating. So yeah, I think Kansas City will turn it around. I actually do think that the Chargers will end up winning the AFC West. Justin Herbert has looked awesome. Their defense has played well. Johnston, the wide receiver, I can't remember exactly what his first name is. I don't want to mess it up. He's looked very comfortable. He's been a great receiver, actually. So I really do think that the Chargers could win the AFC West. Yeah. Moving on to the NFC East. The Philadelphia Eagles are 3-0. However, I would argue we've only played one half of actually good football, and that was, of course, this past weekend against the Rams, where it was just a beautiful game. It was a very ugly and awful game in the first half. My wife actually fell asleep at halftime because it really felt like it was over. And then Philly didn't allow any points in the second quarter. And guess what we did? We actually threw the ball to A.J. Brown. We remembered the fact that, oh yeah, this guy's like 6'2" and 220 pounds of pure muscle who can catch a one-on-one ball against just about any corner in the league if we just throw it to him. Thank God we let Smitty run routes and get open. Thank God. And then guess what that did? It opened it up so that way Saquon could actually have some more chances at explosive runs. He had one run where it was over 10 yards, I know, but that was what was killing teams last year, was we were airing it out well to AJ and Devontae, and then it just opened it up so much for Saquon to be able to just do his thing. And it looks like the Eagles are finally recognizing that we should go back to that game plan. So very thankful for that. Our defense looked pretty lifeless in the first half. I'm still nervous about cornerback 2. I'm still not a big fan of Adoree Jackson, and I said it at the beginning of the season. Isaiah Rodgers, who we had on the roster last year, who looked really good whenever he was rotating in for Darius Slay when he got injured or anything like that. I said that we should have re-signed him, and we let him walk to Minnesota, and he had, grade-wise by PFF, the greatest defensive performance ever recorded. He had 2 fumbles. He had a forced fumble recovery for a touchdown. He had a pick 6, and I think he allowed 1 catch for like 2 yards. and we let that guy walk. And I am so disappointed. I love Howie Roseman. We should have spent the money because I have a hard time watching Adoree Jackson play football. I wish we had Isaiah Rodgers. Nevertheless, the defensive line started getting some pressure. I'm still really waiting for Nolan Smith to do his thing. I feel like he has not been what we saw in the playoffs last year, and I think that he will get there, but it's a little disappointing not seeing him come along so far. Jordan Davis, MVP of last game. I mean, he was just on fire. He was making huge plays in the running game, huge plays in the passing. I mean, even like he just impacted the game in every area. And then on special teams, Jalen Carter blocks that first field goal, and Jordan Davis blocks the game-winning field goal attempt by the Rams, runs it back at 6'8", 335 pounds, and scores a touchdown to seal the win over what I would say was honestly a rival in the Rams. It was just awesome to see that game. The pieces finally start clicking. So I think that this is where the Eagles will go, and I'm going to call it. I am very nervous about playing Tampa Bay in Tampa. We are going to beat them. We're going to get our revenge, and we're going to win in Tampa, and we're going to look good doing it. Mark my words. I really hope that is what happens, so we'll see. But, yeah, Phillies, let's go ahead. Let's look at their stats, what they've been looking like on offense. Where does Phillies offense rank? We are in the bottom 6. We are 6th to the bottom, averaging 268 yards a game, only 440 passing yards, 366 rushing yards, but 77 points. So we've been putting up points, have not been moving the ball well. I mean, it was to the point where in the first half we had 36 yards. And then we totally flipped it on its head in that second half. It was awesome. Defense, we're right in the middle of the pack. We've given up 957 yards. We're averaging 319 yards a game, 557 passing yards, 400 rushing yards. So it definitely, this team can produce more. I'm just waiting on it to finally click. So I think that'll be this week against Tampa, and it needs to be because it's a big game. Washington, obviously Jaden Daniels has an injury. Marcus Mariota comes in and gets the job done. Good for him. This team is still talented. I picked Philly to win the division, and Washington I had in second, which I think is kind of very predictable. I think a lot of people probably had it in that order. Washington's still a good team. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of hype around the big names. Like, Deebo Samuel's been playing really well, better than I thought he might. Von Miller, I don't believe has had much of an impact. Washington is still a very good team. They're going to be a tough team to beat. So I think that they could definitely get in the playoffs again this year. But I'm still taking Philly to win that division. Dallas, man, they have been absolutely hurting on defense, and I wonder why. Maybe it was because you traded the superstar. They have given up 1,100 passing yards, 864 passing yards, 329 rushing yards, and they've allowed 92 points. So Dallas has been suffering, obviously, with the departure of Micah Parsons, but even other things like Deron Bland hasn't really been playing well. He may actually be injured. Let me not speak out of turn. But regardless, Trayvon Diggs has looked like a shell of himself, which is sad because, again, that's another Alabama guy. Just hasn't looked the same. I think Dallas is going to continue to have a rough season. I don't think it's going to be a fun one. And the Giants. Jackson Dart is starting this week. Let's see how he does. Brian Dable and Joe Shane's job, the head coach and GM for the Giants, is entirely on Jackson Dart's shoulders. He has got to ball out like nobody else if these guys are going to keep their job. Russell Wilson fell back to earth in a hard way this past Sunday against the Chiefs, and yeah, it was a rough one for sure. Giants are having another hard season as they have what feels like the last 10 years. NFC North, Green Bay, they had a very humbling loss to the Browns. I'm honestly not too worried about it. Again, they played a very good defense, but this team is very talented. I think they just got to keep the rest of their players they have on the roster healthy, and I think that they still will be a contender for the number one seed in the NFC. I still have them winning the NFC North. I think the Lions look good, but I think Green Bay, I think that defense is just it's going to be a problem for Detroit, and I think that Green Bay will be able to open up Detroit's defense. So, yeah, I see Green Bay still winning. Minnesota, I was not convinced that they were going to be very good, honestly. They have a lot of talent, but I just didn't trust that J.J. McCarthy was going to be able to ball out the way that people were hoping he would, even the way that Sam Darnold did. And I think that that's going to be the case. You see Carson Wentz come in and absolutely light it up. If J.J. McCarthy is the starting quarterback, I just don't think you're going to see what this team could be. So I would still have Detroit second in the division, Minnesota third, Chicago. Caleb looked really good this last weekend. That just needs to see some consistency. That's what I keep saying, is I feel like Caleb Williams has lacked some real consistency. So let's see how they can continue on. Yeah, I think Green Bay takes the NFC North. NFC South, I had one of my takes that has aged so badly. I said that Atlanta would be one of the top offenses in the NFC. They do have the second best defense in the league. They have the number one defense in the NFC, but offensively, they just have not looked super great, especially last game. They've been decent for the most part, but haven't been able to score points. I mean, Michael Penix has terrible pick six thrown on a route to the flat, just a bad throw that you can't make, and he had a guy open downfield when he made that throw too. So definitely some concerns for Michael Penix, but still a lot of talent on this offense. And again, their defense has been really performing when I don't think a lot of people expected them to. So we'll see how they continue competing. I was super happy for Bryce Young this week. Just played really, really well. Man, if there's one player that I would want to see succeed really well in this league, it would be Bryce Young. I just love the guy so much. I think he's an awesome dude. So hopefully Carolina can keep at it. New Orleans, they're still suffering from the departure of Drew Brees. Their cap is terrible. They don't have money to spend. They don't have young talent. Spencer Rattler's very middle of the road to bottom tier quarterback. I don't know if Tyler Shuck's going to be any better. New Orleans is just in a very bad state, if you ask me. Tampa Bay keeps winning games. They had a great resilient win against the Jets where they could have lost that game, and Baker delivered. I really like Tampa. I think that Tampa is still a huge contender in this NFC conference, and they're dangerous, man. I'm telling you, they're dangerous. So yeah, I think Tampa still wins that division as well, the NFC South. And then last but not least, the NFC West. You have San Francisco, Arizona, Seattle, and the Rams. I think that Arizona is kind of like a paper tiger type of team. I think they look fierce, but I don't think they really are. I think they've probably had the softest schedule so far through 3 weeks. And, they lost to the 49ers when they have like not even half the roster, and the 49ers just lost Nick Bosa. I'm telling you, the Rams are still going to win this division. It's going to be the Rams, Seattle, San Francisco, Arizona. The Seattle team is legit, if you ask me. I think that they look really good. Solid defense. Sam Darnold is playing really well. It seems like they did a great job at taking what they didn't do well in week one and fixing it. And it's been sticking. And Jackson Smith-Njigba has been lighting it up. I feel like no one's really talking about him. I think he's second in the league when it comes to receiving yards behind Puka Nacua. He's been very, very solid. So, really like what the Seahawks are doing. I still definitely see the Rams winning this division, though. So let's talk playoff picture. Number one seed in the AFC. I'm going to give it to Buffalo. I think in the 2 seed, it'll be the Chargers. I think 3rd seed would be the Ravens. 4th seed, go to Indy. And then put the Chiefs at 5 or 6 interchangeably. I don't think it matters. I'm going to give the Jets the 7th seed. I'm rooting for this team, man. And then I think Pittsburgh will be in the mix as well. So, that would be my predictions. I think Denver might miss the playoffs. I don't know if I see it happening. NFC, Eagles obviously number 1 seed. We're not going to lose a game. Undefeated season, back-to-back Super Bowls. Love to see it. I think Washington will get in around the 6th or 7th seed. Green Bay will be 2nd, Tampa Bay 3rd, and then the Rams 4th. And then I think the Lions get in there, also in that 5 or 6 range. And then the 7th seed, I'll hold out hope for the Falcons. No, the Seahawks. It's going to be the Seahawks. That's my predictions for the playoffs. Some interesting stat lines talk about MVP candidates and all that. I think Justin Herbert is probably the front runner for MVP. He's on a team that's 3-0. He's leading the league in passing yards, has 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Really could be him. People had Jordan Love kind of as like a sleeper, and I feel like that got blown up so much that he was a sleeper that it's not really like, it's kind of like people are like, yeah, we know. But I think I see Justin Herbert winning MVP. I'll say runner-up. Josh Allen runner-up, coming off of his MVP season. I think he will be the runner-up for the MVP. Let's go rushing. Or, I'm sorry, we'll do Offensive Player of the Year. Man, Jonathan Taylor. 338 yards, 3 touchdowns. He could definitely be a candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. It seems like nowadays it's like MVP is the quarterback award, Offensive Player of the Year is the wide receiver running back award, and then you have Defensive Player of the Year is really just the best defensive lineman. I mean, Pat Surtain did win it last year, so that's not totally true, but I feel like we just commonly see it be a pass rusher. I'll put it that way. Offensive Player of the Year, Puka doesn't have a touchdown yet. I'm going to give it to Jonathan Taylor. Why not? I think he continues lighting it up. He's crucial. He's one of the biggest focal points of this Colts offense. Shock the world, man. Go for it. We'll pick him for Offensive Player of the Year, yeah. Offensive Rookie of the Year. I have seen a lot of talk about the Seahawks rookie wide receiver. He's been doing some special teams work. He's got 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm trying to think of some of the first-round talent that we've seen so far. I don't think it's going to be a quarterback this year for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I don't think Cam Ward's going to be able to do enough. I would say right now, let's give it to that Seahawks receiver, see how he continues on throughout the season. I also can't think of a whole lot of the offensive rookies off the top of my head right now, so it's a bit of my excuse. Defensive Player of the Year. Right now, Rashawn Gary's leading the league in sacks. I don't know if I see him winning it. Myles Garrett's still up there with 4. I don't think Myles Garrett will win because I don't think the Browns will be good enough for him to really get the recognition. Harold Landry's had a good season. Let's look at interceptions. Right now, Isaiah Rodgers just had Defensive Player of the Year performance, but that doesn't mean he's going to be one or be the Defensive Player of the Year. We'll give it to... Obviously, I didn't plan any of this. Like, we're talking football, guys. You know, you can... I would love to have discussion. Actually, comment on the video or, leave me a message. Like, let's give me talking points. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. We'll give it to... You know what? I'll buy into the hype. Micah Parsons catches fire, goes off this year, gets his first Defensive Player of the Year. Right now, there hasn't been a whole lot of like real standout Defensive Player of the Year play. Like I feel like we see, but again, we're only through 3 games. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Don't think it's going to be Travis Hunter. Let me look up who are some of the defensive rookies. Defensive Rookies 2025. Abdul Carter. Yeah, they're probably going to give it to Abdul Carter. I think he probably wins it because Mason Graham did have a good game, though, for Cleveland. Had a lot of pressures. Got his first sack. Does Abdul Carter even have a sack yet? I'm not sure. I can't see. But yeah, so we'll see how the rest of the season shakes out. Super Bowl winner. And still, the Philadelphia Eagles. I will not pick otherwise. I'm sorry. If I was to give an unbiased opinion, the Philadelphia Eagles. With that being said, let's go ahead and we'll wrap it up there. Thanks so much for checking in, guys. I appreciate your guys' patience and understanding. Again, I want to do as many episodes as I can, but balance is tough. It's something that the Lord is teaching me. So, yeah, thank you guys for being here for me, for supporting the channel and the podcast. And if anything, I just hope that this can make your day in a way and let you know that God loves you and that He sees you. So, thanks so much for checking out the podcast for today, guys. I'll hopefully see you guys next week.